Saturday View on Midlands 103. With thanks to Lumclean Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcleanEnergy.com. Have your say. Call 0818 300 103. Text or WhatsApp your Saturday View to 083 3010 103.
Hello and welcome. David Hollywood in for Ronan Berry this morning. Coming up on today's show, we hear from the Westmeath grocer who's called time on a life served, serving and socialising with us. After 36 years, Behan's Fruit and Veg in Athlone closed their doors for the last time this day next week. Phil Behan joins us to share fond memories and look at why it's so hard for farmers and retailers in the food industry. Tell me this, what place in your community, in your parish, makes you proud to be there? For many people in and around Moat, it's Westmeath Park. You'll meet the park manager just after they've been visited by the Pride of Place judges. And we catch up with the Minister of State and Laois Offaly TD Sean Fleming on a new pilot programme with in-school therapy supports for special schools. But it won't be coming to Laois, Offaly or Westmeath for now. In our communities, we have those shops, don't we? They're the pillars of the community. They're where you meet your neighbours. They're where you catch up with parents from your child's school. And of course, it's where you pick up your groceries. And certainly, Behan's Fruit and Veg in Athlone is and certainly was very much one of those places. The news has come through that they're going to make the emotional and difficult decision to permanently close on Saturday week. It's next weekend that Behan's Fruit and Veg will be closing. I'm very glad to say that Phil Behan joins us to look back on a remarkable 36 years of business in this particular shop. Phil, thanks very much for joining us on Saturday View this morning.
No, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Yes.
It must be a weird feeling being 7 days away from closing the doors on this business. We have to start, I suppose, with understanding what the motivation behind the decision is first.
Well, my decision is I'm going to retire after all my years working. I'm working now since I was 15 years of age, and I have been working at the fruit and veg business for 49 years. Before that, I was working in Sheriff Street in Dublin as a barman in Dublin at the age of 18 years of age. And we decided I was with Sean Barry of Athlone. We used to deliver fruit and veg all over west of Ireland. And Sean was a man that was very, very easy to get on with, and we worked very well together for 13 years. And Sean advised me to start my own business at the time. We opened our first shop back for 36 years ago, and there was a premises next door to me which appealed to me all the time. An old style business that an English family owned it, and they came up for sale, and we decided, myself and Behan, to buy the premises and convert it into a fruit and veg market area for Athlone. So that was basically the way we started the business, you know.
And we fast forward to today, and the decision has been made. Was it a difficult decision to make? I understand, obviously, that you're at a stage in your life where it's maybe not practical to sustain such a heavy workload as such that the fruit and veg industry demands. But what was the decision-making process like for you?
Well, the decision making was very, very difficult. We've been talking about it for the past number of months. Business is not the same as it used to be years and years ago. The fruit and veg business is pretty hard business to keep, as you know, because trying to keep vegetables fresh all the time. I have travelled to Dublin every morning or every second, third morning to get the fresh Irish vegetables. My passion all the time was our local farmers, but at the moment local farmers are not producing anything at the moment, and I have to go to Dublin to pick up my fruit and veg up there to make sure everything is Irish that I can possibly get. I've dealt with Irish farmers for the last 36 years, and I appreciated all the farmers in Dublin, and there's not very many of them left now. They're all being put out of business. We're getting a very, very hard business to operate. And as all foreign fruit and vegetables coming in now from all over the world. And I've decided that I cannot really sustain it any longer, as we cannot meet the prices of some of the multiples that's involved in it. It's not possible to do that. And so we have decided, after all my years, I'm 74 years of age now, so I decided to give up the business. And my daughter, has been working with me over the years here for the last 21 years, and he has decided to move on, that it wouldn't be practical to keep the business open. So that's basically it, yes.
And tell me this then, Phil, if the industry hadn't gone in the direction that it had done, and that importing and buying at scale wasn't the main modus operandi to be successful in the industry, if that wasn't the case, but you were still the age that you are now, would you think you'd still continue the business in some way, shape or form?
Oh, yes, I probably would have. It's very, very hard in business at the moment, like in Athlone. That's because the whole town of Athlone is actually, it's going, as far as I can see, it's all going down. You can't get in or out of town. It's all changed. The whole town, even the main street down the town now, there are very, very little shops. There must be 11, 12 shops after closing up here in the last 2 years, because business really is it's very hard to get into Athlone at the moment. Traffic is everywhere. So I've decided, I understand the people just shopping. You go in and you pick up the nearest place. You can hop in and hop out and off. And supermarkets outside the town are doing the business now. And like in the last 2 years, like business has gone down an awful lot. So we're very lucky in the one stage that we deliver to restaurants and the hotels industry, and they were very good to me over the years. They have stood with me for the last 25, 30 years. And I've supplied them with all the best quality stuff I could get, and they seem to be all very happy with it. Like this coffee shops closing down all over the place. Like it's all the business, like with the expenses and all the rest of it. Like the expenses has gone very through the roof altogether, like with small businesses, especially with that. Coffee shops, and as you know yourself, coffee shops and all are closing down. They're getting it very hard to survive with all. Like wages are going up, PRSI is going up, everything is going up, insurance. Like it's just impossible at the moment to keep a fruit and veg shop open. Like even in Dublin itself, and in the last 12 months since I could travel up and down to Dublin, I said there's about 8 fruit and veg places closed down in Dublin as well.
Yeah,
it's just impossible, to keep a store open.
Tell me this, Phil. You spent half your life or more, and the majority of your professional life doing this job. What were the things that gave you the greatest satisfaction?
Well, actually, it's the customers. They're like the customers we have at the moment, all through the years. Like St. Helens Terrace was here in Athlone, right beside me. At the time I opened, and people says, "Oh, we won't be able to stay open with St. Helens Terrace," but actually they come to be the best friends I've ever had. And they come into me and they chat me and all the rest of it, even since the St. Helens was taken out of Athlone and brought out more. So, like the customers themselves come in for a chat and they get their stuff, and there was never a problem with them, and I never had a problem with them. I was never broke into over the last 36 years. That they were the nicest people we could meet in the town, but they have moved out now, and their kids are moved out, all the cars and all the rest of it. Whereas I used to deliver to their doors and bring in stuff to them, and the whole lot, and always have a chat, and they'd always ask me for would I have a cup of tea, and that's basically it. They're all gone now. Younger people now with a car, and the pop from A to B and all the rest of it. But, I've developed some brilliant friends over the years, and they all come in for a chat, and the staff I had was actually the best staff you would pick up in the whole country. Like, they were all well known by their first name, and they'd always have their customers and all the rest of it. I'm very lucky to have such a good staff in the shop, with me over the years. So that's basically, they're all the older people, like when you take a Saturday morning here when we'd open the shop, there'd be about maybe 15, 20 customers in before 9 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
But they're all have died away now, and the younger people don't come in the same as they used to, But the friends, it's all about friends really, and way of shopping, like, you know.
The human contact.
Human contact, well, that's it. But we've always had human contact with the people all around that Athlone and out the country come into me there for potatoes and everything else, and they still do, like, you know. So it's just the human contact really with them. It's fantastic, like, and to develop that sort of a chat with them, actually, when they come in, they all want to chat, and we have a chat with them and all the rest. So that day it seems to be going now. People don't seem to have time. It's all about time. Young people now are all under stress with all trying to buy houses and trying to pay for everything else, like, and everything going up and up and up. Nothing seems to be coming down anymore. So, like, you take it back in 1988, we used to sell a 4-stone bag of potatoes for $2.99. You know, and the price of stuff has gone through the roof, like, you know.
Yeah, and ultimately, as these prices increase, people are forced to the cheaper options, and if you can buy at scale as a supermarket chain, you're going to undercut the likes of Behan's as a consequence. So I imagine that's been the business dynamic for the last number of years.
Yeah, well, like you take most of the supermarkets that seem to be selling the fruit and veg, you know, it's one thing to put up on a special nearly every week, and like, I can't compete with that. Like, there's no point in saying one thing. They're putting up a loss leader every week there, and like, I can't compete with that. Like, and there's no point in saying I can, but it's a sad day. Like, that's the way things are gone. So, you know, the government themselves don't seem to be doing much about what the supermarkets are doing with vegetables, like putting all the farmers out of existence, really, to be honest with you. Like, you take about 4 farmers coming in from Rush, and when I started back 49 years ago, you wouldn't get in round the market in Dublin. Now, the market in Dublin has died down so much now that there's about 4 to 5 people left in the market.
And Phil,
uses Irish, that takes in stuff, yeah.
What are farmers saying to you about what it's like to farm vegetables as a domestic farmer? What challenges are they talking about?
Well, the biggest challenge is really, is like, you take the Irish farmers now, like, the crops to grow, the vegetables to grow, they're 99% organic. They can't use anything for weeds or anything else. It all has to be done, specially done now, ironed out and all the rest of it. But they can bring the vegetables in from all over the world with no restrictions seemingly on them. And it's very easy to grow vegetables out in foreign countries when the wages are a quarter of what they are here, like, you know. So I don't blame the big multiples for bringing in all the vegetables, but like, the farmers themselves will tell you, like, there's no money in it anymore. Like, there used to be about 4 farmers here in Athlone. They used to bring in all the vegetables to me, and now there's none left. They're all gone. They used to get cauliflower, broccoli, carrots, everything here in Athlone, but they all went out of existence. They can't go up and make money on it, so they have to give up. It's an awful don't seem to be growing their own anymore. Like,
about the darker side of globalisation in a way here, aren't we?
Yeah, well, like farmers is getting it very hard at the moment, and like with potato growers now, seemingly they have to be growing about 300 acres of potatoes to make money on them. Like years ago, like, I was getting local potatoes here. A local farmer was growing maybe 8 or 10 acres of potatoes, and now it's all about quantity now. You have to grow maybe 200 to 300 acres to make money, and they have to be selling to multiples as well, like, you know, to make the money out of them. Like,
it's not the kind of business. It's not the kind of environment that supports any sort of smaller business. Phil, from listening to you today, it sounds like it wasn't a job that you had, but ultimately a way of life. That running a business like this took an all-in mentality. What are your reflections on the kind of work that it is and the kind of person it requires to do?
Well, as I see it at the moment, like, there's definitely no future for a vegetable shop. It's not sustainable. Like, you just can't make money out of it, and as simple as that. Like, I've been losing money here for the last couple of years because the customer base is not what it was years ago because of the multiples and all the rest of it. So, like, there's no point in keeping on a business if we're not making money. It's as simple like that, you know. So, like, we've been lucky enough. I had Sharon here with me for the last 21 years, and she was talking about keeping it on. And when she done the figures on it, she says, look, Dad, she says, if you retire, I'm going to retire. There's no money to be made on it. So basically, that's the reflection on it. Like, and it's a pity, really. A beautiful premises right in the middle of Athlone. And it was all developed by myself and John Riley. John is dead now. And the two of us spent 6 months doing it all up. And it's a sad day, really, for our own family here, especially, that I have to close it up, really, because I've come to the age that I don't think I'm able for it anymore. Yes.
Yeah, a sad day for your family and the community generally. You've got a week left of trading. Have you already noticed people have taken note of the announcement? Have people been kind of offering you their sentiments already?
Oh, yes, they have, big time, yes. Even customers coming in here and that I had over the years and all the rest of them wishing me the best of luck in my retirement. So myself and Behan is going to retire now, and the help of God, I get a few years to enjoy the fruits of it all.
Well, tell us, have you an idea of what those years will entail? Behan's, the premises will still be there for you to use if indeed you had any lightning bolt ideas over the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, the premises will be here. I'm holding on to the premises at the moment and have some rental units in the premises. You see, it takes in a full corner of Athlone here, and we have apartments inside in it, and we have people there, which I was there for the last number, maybe 12, 14 years, and they're all very, very good to me, and I've been good. The premises itself will be here. It's a landmark. It's a landmark in Athlone. It's all stone. Very few of them left in Athlone, and years ago, people wanted me to knock it down when I was developing this premises. So I retained it all, and we've done it all up inside, and the whole place will be here with the help of God for years to come. Yes, and it can never be knocked down. As a heritage building in Athlone, which isn't too many of them left. And I intend to hold on to the premises at the moment anyhow and see what happens, yes.
Well, I imagine this next week will be a real mixture of emotions, but congratulations on the career that you've had, on the legacy that both the business and the building will stand to leave there. And look, I hope that you and the family can enjoy and appreciate the appreciation that will come your way over the next 7 days as well.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for giving me a ring just to reflect on the business over the years, and to wish all my customers to have had over the years, and everyone in Athlone the best of luck, and hopefully that we all live a long and happy life.
A big thanks to Phil Behan for taking the time to talk to us, and best wishes to him and his family going forward. Next up, you'll learn about the power of our own communities. From a marshy cow park to a potentially award-winning public amenity, the Doonashee Park manager Karen Nugent joins us next.
Saturday View on Midlands 183, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. lumcloonenergy.com.
Welcome back. Next on the programme, we're looking at your community. What's the one place in your town or village that gives you pride? The place you want to spend time in with your loved ones the most? Just outside Moat, for many people, that place is Doonashee Park. The Pride of Place Community Awards will be taking place later this year, but the judging is going on across the Midlands and across the country right now. Doonashee has been nominated for the awards, and General Manager of the park, Karen Nugent, joins us on Saturday View to give us the latest on how their entry's getting on. Karen, I understand the judges have been to Moat just this week. How did you get on?
Hi David, thanks for having us on. Yeah, we had a great day here in the park yesterday. The judges arrived around 2 p.m. and we had a presentation in our lovely cafe down here in the park. So we went through the history of the park, so basically how it has come from a swamp-like cow park in 2008 to this fabulous amenity and heritage park that we have here today, and that thousands of visitors every year enjoy. So it was really an acknowledgement of the community involvement over the last few years that have gotten the park from that to what it is today. Okay. So it was fantastic yesterday. We had lots of members of the community at the presentation. So we had representative from each of the community groups in the town there to support us. We had a number of our volunteers, we had our staff, we had the lovely judges, Katrina and Colette, who were accompanied by Jennifer and Annette, who work in Westmeath Community Development. Cahir Lee MacDonald joined them as well, and Junior Minister Robert Troy, and our own voluntary board. So we had a full house, and it was a pleasure for me to be able to present the progress over the last few years. So yeah, that's how we started anyway, with a 25-minute presentation.
Wow. Okay, so you must have felt fairly privileged to be in that position, considering that, as you said there, it sounds like the park it triggers a huge amount of support and motivation for all these people to turn up to say that they're proud of this place, quite literally. And then, you're spearheading that presentation. That must be a kind of pinch me moment.
Yeah, it really was. And I was lucky enough as well to have our finance director from the board. He was there doing the presentation with me as well. So even just to have that support, but to see everybody turning out and just, I can't even express how people feel about the park here in Moat. Like, so much work goes into it from a voluntary point of view. And then the staff that work here as well. Like, I'm local. I'm in my third year here managing the park, and I've never felt more like a member of the community as I have when I started working in the park. I suddenly got to know lots of people and lots of community groups that I wasn't even aware of. So like it really is a hub, and we all pull together here in Moat. Like, we all work together with the different groups. So like we say, we work with Moat Action Group, we support them, they support us, with Moat Town Team, all the local schools, Moat Men's Shed are a huge support to us here. I could go on and on, and they were all just here to support us yesterday. So yeah, I was in a very privileged position to be able to present all that and try and showcase the passion and perseverance and creativity of the people who saw Cow Park in 2008 and envisioned what it could become. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, I've got just questions boggling in my mind here. The first though is it to go back to 2008. Like, what did it actually take to get it from, as you described there, sort of a marshy cowfield to a park that has brought all these people together and obviously is giving people such pride? What kind of things had to happen? Because I know 2008 wasn't yesterday, but it's also not that long ago. So the turnaround to bring the park to where it is today, it shows that huge work was done.
Yeah, so at the time, the Cow Park in 2008 was no longer in use, as you can imagine. And what was going to happen was that the land was going to be sold for housing development. And thankfully, a number of volunteers got together and said, no, we want to develop the park. The Cow Park was originally for the people, so we want to keep it for the people. So they got together, lots of planning, lots of work involved, and then also they had to find the funding. So once they decided kind of what they wanted to do, they had to source the funding, and there was huge amounts of money that was provided by grants, applied for by grants, but the grants then are not always 100%. So there'd be 25% grant funding or 50% grant funding. And then the rest has to be raised by the community. And obviously there's loans involved then as well for bridging finance, and there's interest on that. So the community had to find the most efficient, both time and cost ways of doing things, and find the funding to fund it, and then come up with innovative ways of how they can actually pay back this debt that was generated in the making of the park. So they utilise leader funding. There's a lot of support here, thankfully, from Westmeath County Council as well. So they actually own the amenity park and we lease it off them and manage it. So there's funding coming from them as well that we apply for all the time. And we've been very fortunate in getting that funding over the years to develop the park to where it is today.
Do you have a grant application form ninja, like someone who's the all-star when it comes to getting these things over the line? Because they go through my brain like a chainsaw.
Well, I know that only by my time here, I was saying yesterday to the judges, I could be applying for anywhere between 10 and 20 grants a year. So
No way.
we're constantly keeping our eye out and applying. So anything that we see coming up that if we fit into the category, we'll be applying for it, because there's so much we want to do. And the more usage that the park gets, we become more aware of the needs of the community, and then we're trying our best to serve those needs. So there's been lots of development done in relation to footpaths have been levelled so that the wheelchair users, buggies, scooters, bikes, that they're all more accessible. We have a sensory garden down there where we have raised beds and loads of different sensory things. So we try to have something for all the users of the park and make it accessible as possible.
Obviously, as you say there, grants often only hit a certain percentage of the overall outlay, and fundraising is part of it. So I imagine with community fundraising and people volunteering their time to get projects over the line, the stakeholder dynamic in the park is probably quite strong. People feel a good degree of ownership in the community over it.
Yeah, so there's people here that have been still involved from the inception of the park, and they've been here all through the years. Most of our board members at the moment have been here from the start, or at least live locally and have been involved in it some way. But a lot of the community groups, like the Moat Men's Shed that I mentioned, they were here, at the start, and they were clearing the land and, doing carpentry works and land works for us, all given of their time. The lady who is developing the sensory garden gives her time freely as well to do the gardening there. Like, there's so many people involved. I probably couldn't mention them all. But one of the things that we do to raise the funds that we did at the start, and are still going, is we do community events and community days. So we used to have the Family Fun Day, where local musicians and performers would give their time freely, and then we would just charge a small fee for entrances that was affordable to everybody, and they would get a family fun day out, so a good value family fun day out. We'd raise some funds for the park, and that then we also developed into the Halloween spectacular and the Christmas event that we do every year. And they're such an impressive events, because you could have anywhere between 100 and 120 volunteers from our town showing up dressed head to toe in costume, whether it be Halloween or Christmas, and giving up their time to put on what is a fantastic show. People thoroughly enjoy it, and it sells out every year. And all those funds go towards maintaining the park. And we're always coming up with ways of getting income in so that we can keep improving the park and keep maintaining it to the high quality that we feel we have here anyway.
Speaking of the high quality, the judges were here looking at the park, and obviously you're putting the best foot forward for the park, everyone involved in the presentation. Specifically, is there a particular category that you're in? Because I know there's plenty of categories based on the kind of entry and all that type of thing. So what am I looking out for when the results come through in November?
So we're nominated under the tourism category, but the main pointers that they look for is the community participation and what impact we have on our community. So I hope they're impressed with the amount of people that showed up here yesterday. So throughout their walk of both the Amenity Park and the Heritage Park, there was 26 stops. And they met a different volunteer at each stop that was somehow involved in that particular attraction within the park. And so they met loads and loads of people. Another judging criteria would be innovation, our viability, and our climate friendliness, and what we do to help the climate. So that's would have been all the things that we're looking at.
What kind of things have you kind of heard from people who've been able to use and experience the park to actually find their feet in a place that they've just moved to?
So a great example that they went through yesterday was, say, sticking with the walk and talk group. Once Maria and the facilitators get to know what their needs are, they do their best to meet them. So they have Fáilte Isteach set up in the local library, which is a way where volunteers come together to teach them English. There's a few of the guys yesterday, and they were saying how beneficial that was, so that they get to learn their English in the library once a week, and then they get to practice it with the people living here, us native Moat people, and they're conversing with us and they're improving their English. So that was a really lovely story to hear that came out of the walk and talk group that was formed here in the park.
Yeah, and by the sounds of it, you've mentioned them a couple of times. The Men's Sheds group have been instrumental. Obviously, they're getting a great deal out of being able to help the community in the work they do and the stuff that they're doing in the park.
Yeah, and they're so talented, and they show up and help us here every year. There's a 27-acre site. You can imagine the maintenance, and we're a small staff of 5 here between office and grounds. So they come out and they maintain any of the wood that might be damaged. With our climate, wood doesn't last very long, so they're painting it, they're restoring it. Anything kind of really we look for optimistic and facilitate it, they can. They're very skilled, and they work very closely with us. But there's so many other groups we work with. We work with the St Hilda's St Hilda's daycare services down in the town in Moat, and they create lots of lovely art pieces for us as well that are placed throughout the park. Moat Town Team are a newly formed group in the town. They're constantly trying to improve the town. They have fundraising events. So they had an outdoor cinema there last year that we hosted here in the park. It's coming again this year. So if anyone's interested, have a look at our Facebook page. You'll see it advertised there. We get so much support. We're home to the Irish Heritage Crafts Co-op as well. Shout out to Pauline and Janetta. They come here and they just weave baskets. And they're placed throughout the park. They put on workshops to keep the crafts alive. So we're so grateful to have so much support. This place could not exist without the community involvement throughout, and that we still have today.
Yeah, obviously wishing you the best for the Pride of Place Awards, but I think ultimately the main ambition has been achieved when it comes to Dún na Sí. It already is a really vital place in the community around there. And look, we just wish you the best with everything else going forward.
Thanks a million. And if anyone wants to visit the park, it's looking at its best now at the moment. So come on down. We're very central. Have a look around and see what's here and what's on offer. And we will be delighted to welcome you here.
Karen Nugent there. The government has approved a pilot programme for enhanced in-school therapy supports for 16 special schools. It looks like none of which will be in the Midlands. We asked the government why. Next.
Saturday View on Midlands 103 with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. lumcloonenergy.com.
A new pilot programme with in-school therapy supports for special schools has been brought in. There'll be 16 schools, 4 in Cork, 2 in Dublin to start off with. It looks like schools in the Midlands like Colby Special School won't be considered as far as we know. So we asked the Minister of State and Laois Offaly TD Sean Fleming why this was the case. Before that, Midlands 103's news editor Cameron Clark asks Deputy Fleming for an update on the construction of the new Colby Special School.
Okay, well, the first thing to say about Colby School, after many long years, we now have the builders on site. I inspected the site yesterday. The foundations are going in, and they're going to have the best school, special school in the country as soon as it gets opened once the builder is finished. So there has been fantastic progress on Colby in the last couple of years. So that's happening. Now the question is, during COVID, therapists were taken out of all the schools around the country because of COVID. Since then, and to give you the background, what has happened is that the schools around the country that has children with special needs, and the special schools like Colby and St Francis School in Portlaoise, they've been working with the health boards, the HSE at local level, to provide a service which includes those schools and other people in the community who didn't have the service outside of those special schools. So, for example, across the country now, you have about 8,000 most of the most severely disabled or children with disabilities in the special schools. But I think everybody knows listening now, in the last number of years, there's a number of special education needs classrooms popping up in a whole lot of the primary schools throughout the country and secondary schools, and we have 14,000 children there.
So this pilot programme is starting off with 6 schools around the country, and 4 of those are in Cork, 2 are in Dublin. Are you aware of the process of how these particular schools were chosen?
No, well, I understand the submissions were made by the schools and they looked at the mix of the schools and the requirements that are needed and the services that were available in those counties by the HSE that could be dealt with. Like we have a centre in Portage where many children go into for the service. Not in the classroom, they go into Portlaoise to get the service in the Spree Centre and other locations like that in Portlaoise and other locations. So while the service hasn't been in the school, there has been a limited service available within the county where lots of children go in on a regular basis for a number of appointments. But that service is not adequate in my opinion. It needs to be increased, and that's why in the areas they have picked, the 16 schools have been picked, so that's the important thing I want to say. 6 were announced yesterday. I've spoken personally with Minister Anne Rabbitte, who is the Minister for Disabilities, this morning before I came on air. The other 10 have already been identified, and they're not. They're based in the 2 main cities where there's no service being provided by the HSE. So I've asked for Laois to be included in that, but I understand those decisions have been made. The most important thing is this will be finished, this pilot study. There's 120 such schools in Laois. The pilot study is covering about 10%, and after a number of months we'll have a very clear assessment of what additional services are needed across all the 120 schools in the country. So this is just a pilot test. This is not a long-term service. The long-term service will come after that, and I'm given a commitment here now in respect to Calbay. I will be doing everything possible to get the services back into the school where they were before COVID, but also we want the service for all the children in the special classes in other schools throughout the county after school hours, because some of the problems is, you can't just only do the service for some of the children that need speech and language and occupational during school hours. Why not at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock into the afternoon when the schools are closed? So we need a facility to provide all these therapies outside of school hours in Portlaoise or other locations in county, not only in the schools. We want it in the schools, but we want the service available, through the HSE and other services like that, outside of school hours. And sometimes children go home at 2 o'clock, and there's a full afternoon that the schools aren't there open and available, and we need a facility in Portlaoise in conjunction with the service in the schools, so children can get the services and therapies they need, not just during school hours, but also after school hours.
I accept that this is just a pilot scheme, and like you mentioned, there will be further supports brought on stream in the future, but do you think it's fair to suggest that the state may have a responsibility to spread this pilot scheme around the country as opposed to focusing on 2 of the cities, like you mentioned with the 16 schools? The
reason those 2 regions are being selected is the HSE in those regions didn't cooperate with the schools at all, and there has been a lack of service outside of school hours that I've been just talking about in those areas, and the schools were left very stranded, whereas in the Midlands the HSE has been working to the best of their ability, not to the standard we want, to provide the service like I've just mentioned in Portlaoise.
That's Saturday View for another week. Lorraine McCormick, and Feel Good Saturday is coming to you live from Clara after the news at 11.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com. Midlands 103.